Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or good day wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the next episode of No Dice, No Glory. Sponsored by our jobs that actually pay us money, we're coming to you not at all live from an abandoned arms factory deep under a mountain in West Virginia. We are proud to proffer to you the finest in wargaming coverage. Without any further ado, let's get this show on the road.
Thank you, Sean, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you to all of our wonderful No Dice, No Glory listeners for tuning in for something that I was very late to. And I need to apologize to everybody involved because Tom Chairborne Mullane's life is a disaster this week, which is what happens to teachers who take on too much responsibility. So I am joined here tonight by our regulars, Glenn, the Commandant Van Meter. Say hi, Glenn.
Yo.
Tyler, like a rolling stone.
Hello.
And we're joined today by a special guest, designer and actual pirate, Mike Tunez.
How's it going, guys?
So we are going to kind of go through and let people know what we've been up to in terms of painting and demo events. We're also going to make some New Year's resolutions because while I think in my talking with Glenn and Tyler, neither of them are really big on resolutions. You know, you're more like, you know, I do it every year and I don't need a resolution to keep me honest. But this fat guy needs resolutions.
I just don't like commitment.
Yeah, I get that.
I like goals, you know, things I can just watch sail by.
So we're keeping notes, which Glenn was good enough to do for this podcast, and we're going to save those notes because if we can keep this going for the year, and we've been pretty good at being consistent on No Dice, getting articles published. I feel like I'm pretty proud of what we've been able to get on a regular basis. I hope to come back to this next year and then rag on each other if we do not accomplish certain things, or congratulate for things that we do actually accomplish. So let's let people know what we've been up to, and we'll start with Glenn. And I'll give myself some time to remind myself of where I physically am. So, Glenn, tell us what you've been up to.
Well, I kind of found out that Firelock's not going to be at Cold Wars, and it's going to fall to us to host the Cold Wars tournaments. And I have been making terrain for that like a madman. I've ordered something crazy like 300 palm trees. I've cleaned out every local aquarium store of grasses and things, and I'm getting pretty inventive on stuff on how to make enough tables to run an entire tournament. Yeah. So that's most of what I've been up to, other than hosting a couple of demos here and there at some local stores.
Yeah. Sorry we have to put that on you, but we don't go to anything with the word cold in it. Not our MO.
They are from Florida. They looked cold back in November when they were falling.
Hey,
yes.
There's only snow there most of the time.
And definitely not if there's snow. That's a good way to seal the deal.
I don't blame you. But yeah, so it's pretty much been terrain building and that stuff. So Tyler, are you up to stuff?
Yeah, so I had been working on Blood and Valor terrain, and then when we talked last, I was rigging some ships. And Model Expo, which is where I buy all of my rigging stuff from, like all my blocks and scale rope, had a pretty big sale over the holiday, which was awesome. So I picked some stuff up. But then for the holidays, I received the, first wave of storage boxes and foam cases. And the message loud and clear is that I need to square away the giant pile of hobby stuff in the basement. So that has taken priority.
How big is the pile, Tyler?
Like I said last time, one of every starter plus Dutch plus a bunch of boats, and then all of the things that I play that are not Firelock games. I have a bunch of leftover Warhammer Fantasy miniatures to square away.
All right. I did a demo of Blood and Plunder up in Catskill, New York, and I've been playing a game locally here with friends of mine. I've tested it out for my friend Shane, I've tested it out for Rod, and I've tested it out for my friend Tucker. And at this point, I have enough stuff painted that I can field the 2 full armies.
Nice.
I've been working on terrain too. I keep looking for my jigsaw because it's in the basement somewhere, and I don't know where it is. But there's like a couple of places it could be, and like it's not a big house, but I really filled it with a lot of garbage. So like it could be under a cardboard box. It could be in the mystery thing that the plumber left behind, and I don't know what it is, but it appears to be holding something up. So I don't want to touch it. But when I do find that jigsaw, I'm going to use it to cut out a bunch of MDF, circles in irregular shapes, and then use that as the base to make more sand dunes and things like that. Because I still have a bunch of stuff from Iron Gate scenery, which is great because they make all sorts of fun little doodads. And I'm also finding that the scale is also perfect for a bunch of D&D stuff that I'm trying to do. So a lot of the stuff that I'm making for all the Blood and Plunder games that I'm playing, I have like cargo stuff I can use for a dock. And there's also a really cool, I'll post it on the No Dice page, but it's a repost of somebody else who had a much better design idea than me. But he basically used coffee stirrers that he stained to make like a pier that you could stick out on top of existing like water effect pieces and stuff like that. And I'm really having fun with the water effect and making the Caribbean stuff. My big Christmas gift was finally have a Caribbean styled beach mat from Cigar Box. So I'm going to start playing games on that. I'm psyched for that.
Those are really nice.
Really
they sent
nice
us through,
mat.
and I have to reach out to them and tell them thank you for that. I've been so caught up, I almost forgot.
Those are my favorite mats because they can double as blankets. Because they're really soft, and I can feel like I'm somewhere else.
Like on that Caribbean beach.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, Mike, what have you been up to?
So mainly, I've been up to making sure Oak and Iron gets on those boats. So we got some. So the EU shipment should be on the boat. They told me it's on the boat, so now I'm following up and making sure everything's where it needs to be. That has pretty much taken up the vast majority of my time, with the exception of the fact that I did get in. They did send me some boxes of the final product ready to go, which I have, and we've actually today we filmed a video. So I was going through all those, punching out terrain from the cardboard, and that's as close as hobbying stuff done in a while, and building the little ships and everything for the sets, which is really good. The only one that actually needs any glue to do is the sloop. And that's only if you want to put both jibs on it, which you obviously want to do. It'll technically fit all in place without glue, but it just keeps popping out. So you're gonna have to put a bit of glue in that one. But other than that, they all go right together, snap together. So I've been testing them all, make sure that all works, and everything on the final product is really good. So today we actually filmed the game, the first game right out of the actual box. We only used what was in the starter box. And we just set it up, filmed it, and they're in the process of editing it, so it should be out sometime either later this week or early next week. Because we've got 1,000 things to do in between all the editing of that video, but it'll be done. That's all the gaming, and that's not true. No, yeah, that is true. That's all the gaming I've actually done in the last 2 weeks or so. Just got to make sure we hit those deadlines. It's been keeping me busy.
So this is all for the Kickstarter stuff
for the Oak and Iron
stuff,
stuff, right? Yeah.
When do you think they'll be available for retail?
March.
It's March.
Knocking on wood, just in case. Knocking on wood. The only way it won't be available in March is if something happens to one of the ships.
Okay.
so
now, I remember you talking about this with us back at Fallen. Mm-hmm. And your expectation was that it was going to be you were excited because you're like, it's coming out soon, and and I can see your frustration when you realize that due to circumstances out of your control, it's just not going to quite go. But it's getting delivered, so you're almost there. You're close.
It's finally all done. I mean, the product is done. That was the part that was the hardest because, of course, they send you stuff, they miss details. Like there was one ship was missing 2 cannons. And I was like, how do you miss this? So one of the ships, the chain plates had kind of melted off. There was a few little issues and things like that they were thinking they could fix easily, and then they actually couldn't. So we had to redo some molds and get delays. But I mean, it's worth it because those are the molds for these ships forever, right? And if those things aren't right now, they're not going to be right later. You can't really fix that unless we make a new mold again, which is an incredibly large expense if we have to front it ourselves. So, got to get it done right the first time, right? And then even if it's a little later, but I'm super happy with it. It's a really, the box itself, the packaging, all the components, everything just came out amazing. I'm super happy with how everything came out.
March is perfect for me because that's a great birthday gift justification considering I missed the Kickstarter originally.
There you go. And if you're at Adepticon, we're going to have it there for sure. And lots of big events for it and stuff too.
All right. So we are going to talk about New Year's resolutions, and I'm kind of quietly typing these to myself because my main New Year's resolution is that I'm doing like a better diet, stuff like that. I've already lost 5 pounds, which isn't bad for 2 weeks.
Nice.
But mostly it's been taken up by dealing with a lot of high schoolers' problems. And high schoolers have a lot of problems.
Yep.
So I'm going to let Glenn go ahead and go first and tell what you're planning on setting for yourself as goals.
Oof, I've got some big ones. So almost every year I think I give myself painting goals and I almost always fall down, but I haven't been a demo agent before. So a lot of my painting goals. Yeah. I want to get all this stuff painted up so I can.
Correct. We're all quartermasters here.
The correct term is quartermaster.
Quartermaster.
But carry
quartermaster. I'm going to be a quartermaster / field marshal / whatever Oak and Irons is. So on the painting docket is finishing up the Dutch that I have half painted in the basement, plus get a Spanish force together, each of them at least 150 points, so I can get nice big games for new players, multiple people aside. I also want to try and get a pair of World War I forces done for Blood and Valor. I'm looking at the Ottoman Turks, and I'm kind of debating who I want to do on the other side. Maybe Arabs, maybe Anzacs. Got to figure out a good faction to put across from them. And then I'm probably going to... I have no idea what the point scale for that game is yet, but I'm probably going to try and get about 50 models aside is my goal.
It's pretty close to Blood and Plunder for the most part. It goes a little higher. So like an average game is like 150. Not a little higher. It's about the same. So an average game is about 150 for Blood and Valor, which is about at 150 points. If I'm not wrong, you're like right around 30 models.
Okay, so that's about what the starter sets from Phalanx are going to be.
Yeah, pretty close. I could be remembering wrong, but I'm pretty sure those are set to 150 points.
Sweet, because I definitely bought one of those.
Cool. Yeah, those are coming out really nice. I'm
super excited. Not to derail. Oh, well, we'll get to that later. And then finally, when Oak and Iron does come out, I want to get the core box and a couple of expansions like the Men of War, and I think there's... What's the one that's like Privateers or something? It's got like all the sloops and whatnot.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah.
Gentleman of Fortune.
That's it. So yeah, I want to get.
That's such a refined name for something so evil. Well, I really admire you guys.
Depends on your perspective, of course.
Of course, obviously.
It's not evil. It could be patriotic.
Yeah, they're freedom fighters, not terrorists.
So yeah, I want to get the core box and 2 expansion boxes painted so that I have a nice little fleet again to do more demos or put on events. Cool. So that's all my painting goals. And then the second half of it is, as a quartermaster, I really want to make sure that I have a lot of stuff going on in my area. I am located in Maryland. We've got all of that sweet money flowing in from the Washington, D.C. Beltway, which means that we've got a lot of gaming stores around. So I'm running around like a crazy person, talking to all of the owners and trying to get stuff going.
I'm jealous of you guys, man. You guys have so many cool gaming stores all close to you.
Yeah, you guys are really pretty spoiled.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. I mean, even so, being a farmer, I live in the boonies, and I still have to drive an hour to like the closest one.
I still love that our first podcast was slightly delayed because you were finishing a pie and you were tending to a wounded goat. Is the goat okay, by the way?
Good question.
Yeah, the ram's okay. We kind of keep them a little separated now so that they don't pick fights.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Glad he's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about goats, but that sounds legit.
Oh, good, because it's a sheep.
Oh yeah, obviously. Of course, I knew that. I have a master's in education, Glenn. I know these things. I'm trusted with kids.
But not sheeps, apparently.
Not sheeps, though. No.
No, you're not okay with those, but kids, you're good.
I teach history, but goats are typically excluded from history. I do not mention them.
That's true.
Or
They
sheep.
only matter in Scotland anyway, or New Zealand.
Okay, so just to reiterate,
That's a low blow.
that was a low blow. All right, so to reiterate, your core things are going to be just run them down real quick.
Painting, Dutch and Spanish forces, World War I forces for demos, and a bunch of oak and iron. And then I want to be running events all the time. I'm probably aiming for like 2 events a month because I'm insane.
I'll tell you, the oak and iron ships paint up pretty easy, especially the smaller ones. The bigger ones, it just depends on you. And when you start to look at, a lot of these crazy little details came out. Like the second rate's got these little statues that are posted all along the top of the quarterdeck. All kinds of little things like that. That if you're that kind of painter, I know that kind of painter's out there. That they, you got to make sure to paint all those little details separate. Those big ones are going to drive you nuts. But all the smaller ones, they're much easier.
I'm definitely a base coat, dry brush, and then pick out details kind of guy.
Me too.
And those
pick
wind
out
up looking
details
pretty
might be
good.
extreme.
They look pretty good.
But I think that wraps it up for me. So maybe Tom, you ready?
I think I'm ready. I got this. Okay. And I would also say, like, while I'm running these down, we should think about like a reward we're gonna get if we pull it off, and also like a punishment if we don't accomplish it. Like, I'm gonna think about that, and next time we record, I'm gonna suggest a couple of options for us, but just keep it in the back of your mind, I would say.
Oh boy.
So
Man, I'm having flashbacks to Fall in.
yeah, given that you were like, I could see you having flashbacks after the amount of sloops.
That was damn impressive.
Canoas you
I will
painted.
say so. Kudos to you, sir. You pulled it off.
There's so many ships, Tyler.
The bet on that was that if I didn't have it finished, I had to dress up in my very Farby pirate gear and sing the Neverland Jake pirate theme song from, I think that's Disney?
Yeah.
And post it to YouTube.
Well,
So
we also might consider
the night before the event, I was still painting because I'm like, I am not singing. There's no way.
I'm kind of disappointed that you pulled it off at this point now that I know that.
Although,
I'm
thank you
sorry
for
to
submitting that as an
disappoint
idea.
that's a solid option.
Yeah, you can maybe catch me on the next go around.
I would also suggest the pirates who don't do anything from VeggieTales, which is another solid,
I like that
historically
song.
accurate shanty.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I got 4 up here. So these are kind of different related things here. First one is, and this is for you, Troy. Okay, because so Troy made fun of me, and justifiably so, when I was teaching a new writer on No Dice, No Glory how to post articles. I did a demo of him, and I was like typing in things while I was talking to him, and I didn't really pay attention. And so, for those of you who are familiar with how WordPress works, I basically we list stuff as drafts, or we list it as done. As we're working on the article, we leave it as a draft so people don't edit it while we're messing with it. And so I put a blank article and just labeled it done so that they'd be able to see what it looks like. So, of course, Troy started mocking me immediately and posted it on our Facebook page being like, it's a tour de force. the best article that's ever been written, and he posts my done article with absolutely nothing in it. So that's a roundabout way of me saying that one of my goals is to actually write 12 full articles this year, and podcasts don't count because this is just me talking, and I can talk a lot faster than I can write. So it might not always be one a month, but I feel like one a month's a good goal to set for myself about whatever topic it is. So write 12 articles. 2, I have a whole Team Yankee Soviet force that I have assembled but not painted because I refuse to paint them base colors that are boring. I want to paint them like camo colors so that they can hide better. I feel like that'll help them not get shot.
Go for the East German camo. That's always been super awesome looking.
I'm going for like Chechen war camo. So it's going to be kind of a weird blue, black color with a variety of different weird gadgets and stuff like that. But so I have all the stuff. I just need to paint it. And I have an airbrush, which had broken, but then I got a new compressor for it. So it should be working now. The big one, I don't know if I'll actually accomplish that, but we'll see. I'm putting it on my list. And the last 2 are both Blood and Plunder Firelock related here. So one of them is I want 2 full tables worth of pirate terrain finished and ready to play, because I too, like Glenn, have been raiding the pet stores for sand and gravel and realistic looking aquatic plants. And once I get the MDF cut, I'm going to start assembling as much of the different terrain as I can. And I'm going to try my hand at sculpting and building my own houses, which is kind of related to that. Because terrain's like one of my favorite parts of the hobby, and I really have fun making it. And it's inspiring to see the kind of things that the people on Buccaneering Across the Spanish Main post, because they come up with some really, really cool stuff, and they've given me a lot of good ideas. So 2 tables worth of pirate terrain that can fill 3x3s. And then finally, the most embarrassing one, and probably the easiest to accomplish, but we'll see. I would like to win a game of Blood and Plunder, because that has not happened in the year and a half that I've been playing the game.
Well, based on the things I've heard, that's a lofty ambition.
It is. It is. How's the Simpsons put it? Aim low. Aim so low no one will care if you succeed. So those are my 4. I'm going to win a game of Blood and Plunder, 2 tables of terrain, finish painting my Team Yankee folks, and then I'm actually going to write 12 articles. So Tyler, what are your plans? What's the goal?
Everyone's talking about painting, and I really need to get back into regular painting because there's a mounting lead pile in my basement, and Blood and Valor is not going to make it any better. Oak and Iron is not going to make it any better, especially if what Mike says about these statues on the railing of the ships with the intention of making me go blind.
I have a feeling Tyler will be the kind that paints each one individually.
He will.
One of those guys.
I am that kind. Yeah.
He will.
So one of the things that I have marked down in the notes here is contrast paint with a question mark. Because I've seen the stuff that you've posted.
Yeah, that's how I've painted them all so far, and it works pretty good. I hate to give the guys who make that a bone, but they did pull off a pretty cool thing for once.
I can rarely complain about their paint or any of their. I mean, their paints are top quality.
I think their paints are fine. They're just not. I don't think they're compared to the other stuff that's out there. I'd rather.
I really like the Reaper paints. Personally, I think they're great, and their effects paints are phenomenal. But I'm a walking advertisement for the contrast paints because I am the laziest painter of 28 millimeter variation that there is, and that lets me just pretend that I'm good at it.
I'm sure that at some point this year, Army Painter, probably Army Painter, I would guess, is gonna I mean, it's not hard to figure out. There's YouTube tutorials on how to make your own contrast. So
that's true.
At some point, they're gonna release their own contrast. So they have to. I mean, it makes sense. It's been such a revolutionary thing that's got so much hype around it. It really does save a ton of time.
Well,
hopefully the effects are nice.
I love the painters that the really good painters that will talk trash about the people that use it. It always makes me laugh because it's like a gang war, but
yeah,
they're just a bunch of just old dudes that paint miniatures like me. And it's like, I don't know. I just can't take it seriously when they're they're acting like perturbed or angry, it just makes me laugh.
Well, hopefully Army Painter will undercut GW, because I nearly had a heart attack when 5 contrast paints up to the register.
Yeah, no, it's not cheap, that's for sure.
Bought a
The good old
starter
GW
box,
premium.
Choose your colors carefully, that's for certain.
So
Yeah.
getting back into the regular swing of painting and being able to knock down that pile and hopefully have it all painted up. And then the other thing is, in 2017, I really didn't know that HMGS was a thing. And now I think I've been to all but 1 or 2 of their conventions from 2018 or 2019, I guess, to present. And so I've got some people that I would actually like to meet there, other people in the historical side of the hobby. I'd like to meet the Perry twins because they sort of bridge that gap between what I used to do with Games Workshop and their fantasy range. I think I still have some of the horses for the Empire Army that they did. So I would really like to meet them and just kind of fan, nerd, whatever out a little bit and just thank them. And the Little Wars TV guys, because again, they're just another group similar to us. They run a YouTube channel and they put on some really awesome historical games, which was sort of the tipping point.
I love the way they do their things like a documentary almost kind of thing. It's really cool.
Yeah, they're super fun.
Yeah. And that was a lot of what kind of tipped me away from playing just tournaments and making me want to do things like put on the large Perico game and the other scenario games that you guys put out. And the final thing that I want to do is I want to get my hands on one of the 6th or 8th frigates because they're awesome. And I want to rig that and paint it up.
You know who got his hands on a 6th rate frigate? Mitch. Mitch has got one.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm sure Mitch is going to take a selfie of himself like sleeping with it in the bed next to him or something. You know, just to get at you, Tyler.
Snuggled up to it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Put a little hat on it so it doesn't get cold.
Well, maybe when Tyler and I are running some C game at Games and Stuff this year, Mitch can bother to bring it a little bit north.
I will say this about Mitch, that he's no slouch when it comes to painting. I mean, he has a ton of Blood and Plunder stuff painted. He has multiple armies painted for Blood and Valor. I'm like, a lot of people would get that ship and it's going to sit in their closet for a while and not get painted right away because it's such a big project. But I'm convinced, I have faith. I think Mitch is going to get that done.
I think he's cheating, man. I think he's hiring somebody and saying it's him. There's no way. I know all the stuff he does. There's no way he's got time to paint all that.
I don't know. I believe
Mitch.
Yeah, I believe he's doing it himself.
All the models for the Fall In demo, that was all of his stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah. He also
that his terrain as well?
Yeah, he always takes a kick at himself because he's like, "Oh, my painting's not very good." His painting's great. He's a fine painter.
Yeah, it looks fine.
Better than me.
I think his stuff looks really nice.
Yeah, I think so. All right, so Mike.
Yeah.
You got to give us at least 3 New Year's resolutions.
What if I give you one big one?
Okay.
All right. My resolution is to not run Firelock Games into the ground. Does that work?
That works great.
You'd appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll have to have you on in a year to make sure that hasn't happened.
Yeah, so our resolution with this podcast is that we're going to have you on next January.
All right.
And if you did not run Firelocks into the games on the ground, we're going to have some kind of surprise for you.
Yeah, it's going to be real bad if I did, though, because then I might not. You probably won't have me on.
Oh, yeah. We'll set up like a really adorable bearded scarecrow, and we'll pretend to interview him because it'll be sad if you're not here. All right. So tell us a little about your plans for the year. Kind of give people an idea, because I know we talked a little bit of this stuff Fall In. I know that Mitch got a chance to talk to a bunch of the other guys, and we did speak to you. But kind of go down the list. Let's start with Blood and Valor. What are we looking at for that?
So So the question was, what are we looking at down the pike for these things?
Yeah, so like so far for the year, what do you
Okay.
have planned for each of the game systems you've got
Got
going
it.
on?
So
Yeah, where
so
is Firelock going in 2020?
cool. So I will start with Blood and Valor. So this is actually a great opportunity to address a little bit of confusion I think we've created with Blood and Valor. So Blood and Valor is the first in a series of games that we are going to be publishing. We've got a few that we're sitting on different rule sets people have submitted to us and basically for publishing. And the idea behind those is primarily to put out the rules and just the rules, right? Maybe if some accessories, a few things. And if the game proves popular, maybe we do more stuff for them. We're not going to just sit idly. And support those games primarily with content from the writers of the games themselves that we will, help to create official documents for and everything, and create expansions and things like cards. So specifically for Blood and Valor, the only release that we have planned for this year, for sure, is unit cards. So we're going to release a deck of unit cards, and it's going to primarily be a Western Front deck. And then if that does well, then we have plans to do not an Eastern Front, excuse me, a Middle East and Africa deck.
Okay.
So that's the planned releases for Blood and Valor for this year. Now Rufus and Kai are working on an Eastern Front expansion, and that is something that will come out, but I don't know if it'll make it for this year.
I think I've seen a little bit of that because I think Mitch was talking about like Poles and Russians.
Right.
Like
it'll have one of the big things it'll feature is the Russian Civil War, for example, which has like a gazillion factions in and of itself. That expansion is also going to have armored cars and things like that, but I don't know for sure if it'll be out by the end of this year. But it is in progress, it is being made, and will be done. But back to the whole strategy for that. So we've got a few other. I'm kind of reluctant to talk about them just yet, just in case, because you never know what'll happen.
That's fine. That's fine.
Because we don't have anything set in stone for a lot of them. They're just kind of stuff where things that people that we know, people we've met and had contact with. Some people, perhaps in this very podcast, have brought ideas to us. We've talked about publishing a bunch of different things. So because people come to us with all these ideas, and we don't, we can't make the mistake that other companies have made, where you're trying to support too many games at once, fully, like we do to Blood and Plunder, and like we will do for Oak and Iron, right? And I don't want to make it sound like I don't plan on supporting these games at all, but I do. We do want to. We don't want to overextend ourselves. We're going to focus on our core things, and then as opportunities present themselves, we'll see what happens. But so the big confusion so far, I think, has come from the miniatures that Phalanx Consortium is doing. A lot of people are under the impression that we're doing them, or they're asking us questions about certain things about them, and we have to keep reminding people, hey, we're licensing the Blood and Valor name to these guys to make official miniature line. Which is cool, because if they are built around the game. So you buy a box, for example, and it makes it work for the game. You buy that box and you have a 150-point list, right?
Right.
So it's convenient. It helps people get into the game and just makes it easy. And I think there's definitely a need for a better line of World War I miniatures for a lot of the ranges out there. There's a couple nice ones, but a lot of them are just older and kind of lacking at this point. Especially with all the scale creep. A lot of them are older 25s and stuff like that. So Phalanx has filled in a nice niche in that market. So, but that is their product completely. You know what I'm saying? They've just licensed Blood and Valor from us. So,
Okay,
just wanted to clarify that.
All right, that makes sense. So content for Blood and Valor,
right?
And then see where it goes.
Right. So we will do the cards like we talked about, and there will be an expansion. And with any luck, that expansion will be out this year, and that's that for Blood and Valor. Phalanx will continue to produce more ranges, from what I'm told by them. They plan on doing. I think he wanted to do Anzac next, but I'm not sure. But I know he's thinking about other stuff. I know. Well, I know the very next ones will be the British, whatever. That's the very next one after he does the French and Germans, which he's wrapping up right now. And then after that, it'll be. I want to say it was Anzac, but I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, that is it for Blood and Valor.
All right. How about Oak and Iron?
I was gonna I'll just put in real quick there. For those that are listening, Mike can correct me if I'm wrong, but those that play Blood and Plunder have already seen some of the Phalanx stuff because they did the Pikemen, correct?
Yeah.
They just did the sculpts for that?
So
Or was that theirs start to
yes
finish?
yes and no. I don't think it's the same sculptor. Phalanx has a whole bunch of different sculptors they work with. I'm not sure it's the same sculptor. I don't think it is, but I could be wrong. But if you were at Fallen, he did have some of the actual models there. He had 4 American riflemen, and they look pretty great.
I saw the samples when I was there. Yeah,
Okay,
they look good.
cool. So yeah, I'm not sure. I know Phalanx. We did work with Phalanx on the pikemen, but we still had them. We still made the molds and did the casting. They did the sculpting on their end, but I think it was not the same sculptor as the World War ones. Although the style is somewhat similar, I don't think it was the same guy. I could be wrong. Chris from Phalanx could correct me on that.
I just wanted to clarify. It isn't like it's not that they're coming out of nowhere. You guys have worked really tight with them.
Yeah, we've done a few
already.
things. They helped us a lot with Oak. They've helped us a lot with Oak and Iron. Actually, most of the ships from Oak and Iron, we did with them.
All right.
Well,
so Oak and Iron. You mentioned that you've been devoting it's your life's work to get the last of the Kickstarters out. It's almost done.
Yes.
And you said that you're expecting to see it on shelves for retail in March.
Correct. Yep. March is retail release for sure. Knock on wood.
Okay.
You know, the exception, like I said, unless something happens to the ship, God forbid. I don't know why I'm always so worried about that, but.
Well,
anyway.
a lot can happen to a ship. You do make a game with pirates, Mike.
Yes, maybe it's the event deck that I created for Oak and Iron that's got me worried. Anyway,
the weather's changing. The wind gauge.
Well, the wind changing, not so much of a big deal for a modern ship, thankfully. But anyway, so Oak and Iron, we do plan on doing a bunch of releases for Oak and Iron this year. So we will. We were originally going to do some starter sets. We probably still will do those starter sets, like basically like fleet boxes. So like if you want to play French or Spanish, you could buy those boxes specifically with a little bit of a larger. That'll have some name ships. They'll have some new models, some of the older models mixed in where appropriate. Because we basically, in the main line for Oak and Iron right now, there's one of each class of ship, right? And there's some ships we haven't done yet, but there's there's 1 third rate, 1 first rate, 1 6th rate, etc. And they vary by nationality. So we wanted to get a good mix. So we've got some Spanish designs, some French designs, some English, some Dutch. It's a good mix across the board.
Very cool.
So I know that the naval historical gamers are a very picky crowd, and not in a bad way necessarily, but it will bother them to have a French third rate. And people have already commented to me about the French third rate with its angel, word slipping me. Help me out here, Tyler. The
figurehead.
The figurehead. Thank you. The angel figurehead. That would never. I want to play the English, and the English would never have something like that. Papist thing, So
it's far too ostentatious.
Exactly. So, and they're not wrong. They're correct. They're 100% correct. So to alleviate that, like right now, I've just had sculpted, and we actually just got the model in, or rather the render, I suppose. The HMS Anne, which is a ship that is still, I forgot exactly where in England it is, but part of it is still visible at low tide from where it ran aground and burned.
Oh, cool.
So that's a cool ship. It's got it's based on the Lennox. It was another ship of the same class. Anyway, so that's an English ship, the third rate. So since the third rate is the most common ship of the line, everybody's going to get their own third rate, right? And then, so that'll be the first ones that we do specifically for each nationality. So that'll go in the box as well as everything else. Now these might be resin hulls. We're looking into that, seeing how that works out, because we could still use the plastic sails that we already have. And that's the one thing that kept me away from doing resin or metal, is I didn't want to do metal masts. I don't think that works well. And I definitely don't want to do resin masts. It's going to be way too delicate. So we can use the same mast, but we can do a resin hull. A resin hull should be durable enough. So we're going to print some out and cast a few and test it and see how it works. And if we're happy with it, we're probably going to roll with that, because if we do, that's going to let us create a lot more ships a lot faster, rather than having to go through the whole process of cutting the steel molds and everything. And we'll still do some more plastic ships, but likely they'll be released in resin first, and then we'll kind of see what goes into plastic and whatnot. So that's so you could expect a series of, one way or another, you can expect a bunch of releases for Oak and Iron this year. We are making the models already. We've got I've got, like I said, the third rate. We've got a galley frigate, which is a particular type of ship for the period. That was pretty common. It's basically like a fifth rate frigate, mostly fifth rate. There was sixth rates too, but it's its main gun deck is or the lower gun deck, instead of carrying a row of guns, carries oars. So that it kind of functions as a hybrid between a frigate and a galley, essentially. So
That's weird. I'd never heard of that before.
yeah. Well, if you've heard of you probably haven't, just don't realize it, right? The Adventure Galley of Captain Kidd, which is a kind of famous ship. That was anytime a ship has like a name like that during our kind of golden age piracy period, it's usually a galley frigate. If it's something like the Adventure Galley, the Witta Galley, stuff like that, those ships all had basically banks of oars that would allow them to row pretty effectively. A lot of frigates and smaller ships did carry oars, but these ships were a little more designed specifically for it, so that they could still fight while they're rowing, whereas most other ones couldn't. It's just kind of a thing you would do if you're in a calm or something, So that's another one we got coming out. We also have a merchantman, and that one's wrapping up. The merchantman I should have this week at some point. And there's a few others that we'll be working on. Like I said, named third rates for all the factions, and we will have a named ship and captain cards and all that to go along with those when we get them all done. And then it's just a matter of how we're going to produce them going forward. So
I don't have a good sense for this because I'm still fairly new to the golden age of piracy. It's Oak and Iron's 1/600 scale, if I remember correctly. How big is a third rate at that scale?
It's close to 3 inches.
Nice.
To be specific, it's about, if I'm remembering right, I want to say it's about 75 millimeters.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid piece to be painting there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the once you get to third rates, second rates, and first rates, the models get pretty impressive.
I think you'll find that my models are going to have a lot of depth to them, Glenn, because they're going to be contrast painted. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, I thought it was because you were going to be losing again and sunk.
Yeah.
Hey, man, you tee him up.
I'm going to win. That's my resolution. It's going to happen once.
Another potential
From the
thing.
demo that.
Sorry, go ahead. Continue.
I was going to say from the demo from the demo that I played at Fall In, you can definitely be your own biggest enemy in that game.
Oh yeah.
Then I look forward to proving you right. But I'm going to tell you guys, even a broken clock's right twice a day. So if I manage to play more than like a couple games, I'm going to get one of them.
There you go. So
I don't think I'm going to beat either of you guys because I think you guys are masters of your domain. But I don't know. Maybe I'll play Mike and he'll let me win at Historicon or something.
It's unlikely unless I do something crazy like I did to myself today. But, one more thing I'll throw in about Oak and Iron, something that I'm thinking about, but I'll throw it out there anyway because why not? I'm thinking about. So we've been looking at kind of what other companies do and stuff, and we have this lofty ambition to try to maybe get even if it's a limited run of it, but try to get Oak and Iron to some bigger box stores like Barnes and Noble or something like that, right? So we're looking at what that entails. So we may redo the starter set toward the end of the year, and do basically a smaller starter set with a little bit less ships, a little bit less stuff in it, but at a lower price point. That $39 price point that like X-Wing lives at and games like that. Those games are all $39 box games for certain box sizes and stuff for a reason. So we're gonna investigate that and see what that looks like and possibly do something like that.
I mean,
That would be awesome.
yeah,
Mhm.
selling a $40 starter is easy. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it's the lowest price point you can think of, really.
Yeah, I don't know of anybody who would pass the opportunity to get a full fleet of ships for $40, $30.
Yeah, we got to see how it would work. It would have less ships than the current starter. But another thing kind of prompting me in that direction is that the we have had a couple people mention to us that they didn't want to buy the starter because they had no interest in any of the smaller ships. They only want ships of the line and frigates and things like that. So
Huh.
we may re-gear it that way so that it's a so it's like maybe a couple frigates against a couple frigates or something like that. Now, traditionally, I understand where those people are coming from because in most naval games I've seen, with the exception of fire ships, there's really no place for smaller ships if you're playing with ships of the line or frigates or anything like that, right? Like, sloops and brigantines and flutes and things like that are pretty much just targets. They're just going to get blasted, which is pretty true in Oak and Iron to a degree. But one of the things I wanted to do was make it so that since we could play games with those ships at the smaller point levels, right, where they actually stand a chance, I wanted to make it so that they had value in larger games and playing in the roles that they did historically. So there's a lot of cards that you can upgrade your ships with, like support ships, for example, where you can kind of use them as fire ship shields. So they would put these big poles on them so that they would basically, the fire ship wouldn't make contact with them. So they would use them to go out and hunt them down. Another role that those same support ships would have is that if a larger ship was in trouble, they would tow it out of the battle so that so it wouldn't be captured. So you can use your support ships to basically pull. If you have a ship that gets taken out of the game, you can pull your ship and that ship out of the game. So you don't have to actually tow it around the table or anything, finicky like that. You just pull both ships out, and then you basically get some strike points back each turn, so that you are less likely to lose. So it's kind of a nice little clutch you could do. So it has a role. There's also like dispatch ship upgrades you could give them, where they can give you some of the initiative cards give you bonuses only if you're in formation. So for the purposes of that, your ships will count in formation if they're within a certain distance of the flagship and the dispatch ship. So there's
That's
a few
really
things.
cool mechanic. Yeah.
There's cool. Yeah, I think it works pretty well. We've played with it quite a bit, and it seems like it gives value to smaller ships. You don't want to spend a lot of points on more expensive ships for these things. Obviously, you don't want a third rate that you're towing other ships off the table with, right? But that's a giant waste of your points. But if you have like a light frigate or a sloop or something even like that, it'll fill that role well. And traditionally, when those ships were participating in larger battles, that's the role they played. So,
Man,
So not
I'm
only
getting
is
more.
it, yeah, go ahead,
I'm
Glenn.
getting more excited for this game the more I hear about it. I'm really looking forward to it.
cool. I'm glad.
Kind of in line with the smaller starter box, I was really looking forward to, just with the Kickstarter sized starter box that's coming. We have a lot of gaming cafes around here, like board game cafes, and they really want something that you can sort of just bring in, put up the board, put it on the table, play it, pack it back into its own box, and go. Not necessarily the big hobby games that miniatures gamers
Right.
are so used to. So
Yeah,
something that
that was
appeals to that crowd would be awesome.
That's exactly. That was a really big part of the way we designed Oak and Iron. I remember a long time ago there was a game called AT-43. I don't know if anybody ever played AT-43, but that game took it to another level because everything was fully painted really well. So that game, you could buy a starter box, and in that starter box you had a paper mat, you had some terrain, you had like a crate and some little concrete blocks, you had dice, you had a measuring tape, you could open that box and play the game, put it back in its box, and you have a game you could play whenever you want, without any other investment whatsoever. You didn't have to build any models, you didn't have to do anything. You could literally just open the box and play. And that was the exact thing we were trying to go for. Now, these days it's much harder to get pre-paints done, especially quality ones at a good price. We looked into it, but yeah, it would have changed the cost structure dramatically. So we figured it wasn't worth it. But still, the ships have the brown holes and the white sails. So even if you're just playing the bare plastic, especially if you're approaching it from the board game point of view, right, where you want to get that miniatures game experience, but in the board game package, it definitely delivers heavily on that because, again, you could open that box and be playing within 5-10 minutes. It's just a matter of popping all the masts into the holes, going to the quick start guide on the rules there. Because the main rules for where the quick start is and the rules, if you've seen it, it's on the website. You can go look at it now in the download section.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's only really 10 pages of rules with the exception of some image pages, right? So you could read through it in like 15 minutes and be able to start playing. And everything's in there. You have a CMAT, you have the rulers, the dice. There's nothing, even the little plastic sliders to track damage. You don't need a pen, you don't need or a marker or a pencil or measuring tape or anything. Every single thing you need is in that box.
I saw how fast it was to set up, and you were able to put it up and break it down in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, it was quick. The only time you couldn't was when Mitch and I spilled your entire tray of tokens in the back of his trunk.
Yeah, that was because then you have to find the pieces, which is the
yeah. Then it's a problem.
In fact, I think he still has some of my pieces somewhere.
He definitely does. He was very proud of it.
I'm sure he was. So yeah, I mean, and what's great is it all go back into its own box as well. I've got the starter set that we just got in, and I've got the ships that came in there. I've got the Men of War expansion and the Blackbeard expansion, and it all still fits. I think you could probably squeeze some more. Now, those are with unpainted ships, of course, but even still, if you want to have like a demo set that you can just have in a box and just play whenever you want, it has that ability, which I think is a really cool thing.
Absolutely.
I'm probably more excited about that aspect of it than I should be, but I still really enjoy it.
So let's talk about Blood and Plunder. Fire starters, Kickstarters. You had mentioned to us at Fallen that you had plans to kind of move forward the timeline.
Yes.
Is that still the case, or
it is still the case? I've got a mostly done expansion book that I haven't been able. I was hoping that we'd be able to release that in the beginning of this year, and that expansion book is for the 18th century. That basically moves us into Queen Anne's War, right, which is 1701 to 1713, more or less. And again, a lot of content is there, but we are a small team and we have a lot of stuff going on and a lot of stuff coming. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the primary focus is the Kickstarter we have coming this year, which we are racing toward. It's going to probably be I'll go ahead and just say it's probably going to be in April right now. I'm trying to get all the components in. So as we speak, we're going to go ahead and the plan right now, if we can pull it off, is we're going to try to basically get the first mold made. So we can have sprues and stuff to actually physically show, hopefully sometime in March. So if with any luck, I'll have some at Adepticon. And this is a sprue of just generic sailors, similar to the European sailors that we have now. But so for right now, for example, we have European sailors, we have European sailor musketeers, and we have the sailor upgrades, right? So it's basically like, it's similar to those three packs, but it'll all be in sprues, right? So it'll be multiple parts, different head options, different arms. We're also adding the ability for sailors to carry boarding pikes finally. So all those types of things are in there. Sailors will be it's going to add to the sailors too, also for the 17th century, because they'll also get the option to have the lances. Brace of pistols are going to be an option that everybody will be able to get. Things like that. So, but that sprue will also have part of that sprue will be a Blackbeard and a Maynard in plastic as well. So we'll have hopefully those to paint up and show all the different options, how you can build them in all the different ways. Obviously in that set is also the ship, but the ship is the crazy expensive mold part, so that's definitely got to wait till after the Kickstarter. But we'll probably have like a 3D printed prototype we could show by the time the Kickstarter rolls around. And the plan right now, we're trying to make it happen, and this is the part that's taking up a lot of time, is that one ship, my plan for it is to turn it into a completely modular kit that will make any small ship you want to, that you could possibly think of. So any 2-deck section ship, that includes even basically a super light frigate, which we're just going to call a bark long. So a 3-masted 2-deck ship, basically. And a bark.
Cow. That is a complicated operation.
Yes, a bark, a ketch, a schooner, a sloop. The idea is that it can make all these different types of small ships with the ability to carry 8 guns. So you can go more guns, less guns, depends on which ship you rig it up as. It'll have different decorations, different little bits you could add to it. So the idea is to make it a super customizable kit, because these ships they're just they're ridiculously expensive to make. So we can't do a whole lot of them, at least not anytime soon. So I want to make it as flexible as possible so it can do as much things as we can. I don't know if I'm going to get all those rigs in there, but I'm going to get as many as I possibly can. So that is the goal presently with that thing. So basically, the Kickstarter is going to be a whole big, giant expansion that's going to take us into the last part of the golden age of piracy, the end of the 1730s. This Kickstarter is going to be very, very pirate focused. So I've always hounded the fact that Blood and Plunder is a historical colonial skirmish game that just has pirate marketing slapped on the front. But that will not be the case in this Kickstarter. It's definitely going to be very pirate focused. There's going to be a lot of the golden age of piracy characters that everybody knows. Right now we've got sculpted. We have Charles Vane, Black Sam Bellamy, I think Benjamin Hornigold's one of the ones I've got going, but not yet. Bartholomew Roberts. There's a lot, so it's hard to remember exactly which ones. Blackbeard, obviously, we talked about that. We might have 2 Blackbeards, actually. We might do an alternate for the Kickstarter. We have Anne Bonny, Mary Read. We've got quite a few. I think there's going to be a total of 12, if I'm not mistaken. 12 different of the famous pirates from that age, since made famous by the General History of Pirates book and later, more recently rather, Black Sails. Had a bunch of those characters. So most of the big time characters from Black Sails that were actually real will be represented in that set. So this is going to be a humongous year for Blood and Plunder, because you have that. At some point this year, the Queen Anne's Revenge book will come out. I mean, the Queen Anne's War book, will come out. We are getting ready any day now. I'm just waiting on... We're finishing up some little website tweaks. We're tweaking some things on our website, which is more to get things a little easier for quartermasters and stores to work with our website, as well as moving some things around. So once that's all done, then we'll launch these fire starters, and these fire starters are going to be for North American stuff. So it's going to be the Court of Bois. I've actually decided just to release because I just really want the Court of Bois miniatures.
Can you real quick? Can you go into what a fire starter is? Because I hadn't heard of this until one of the more recent quartermaster meetings.
Sure. Yeah. So a fire starter is basically localized crowdfunding on our site. So it runs similar to a Kickstarter kind of thing, but it's essentially just more in the line of a pre-order. So if you go in and you basically pre-order it on our website, and then once we hit a certain number of pre-orders, we start making it, right? So it's an easy way for us to add stuff that is maybe a little bit more on the fringes of the game, which maybe we kind of have to make sure it's worth all the expense and time, mostly the time that it takes to put these things together.
This is what you did for the pikeman, right?
The pikeman, correct.
Yeah.
We did it. The pikeman was our experiment. We learned some things on how to do it better. So we're going to launch this one with multiple units. So you'll have the 3 units we'll launch on this one are the European militia, which is basically just going to be a later 17th, early 18th century militiamen, whereas the ones we have now are a little earlier. They're more like the guys we have now are really more like in the 1680s, 1670s kind of look, and the ones now will be more like 1690s to like 1720s even. So it's going to kind of be like a little bridging point. We're going to do some North American natives. There'll be 2 different units of those. There'll be one armed with muskets and another one armed with bows. Then there's going to be Canadian militia. So that with those things, we really will be able to fill in the last part of the 17th century really well with the rest of the range, and as well as kind of start setting the groundwork for the 18th century stuff as well, because these models will all work in that period. Most of the models in that range will really work almost to 1750, right before the last French and Indian War. because civilian dress doesn't change a ton. So, and especially for Native Americans and French and French militia and the Corps de Bois and those types of things, they're pretty much consistent up until about that point.
I think I've mentioned this to Glenn and Tyler on the previous podcast, but first of all, very pleased that you were able to coordinate it so that your Kickstarter is likely starting on my birthday in April. It was very generous of you.
Just let me know the day and I'll launch it that day.
It's April 17th, so it gives you most of the month.
Got it.
Now Mitch knows my birthday. He'll probably use that against me.
There you go.
But I'm psyched for this stuff because I think I mentioned to you, I might have mentioned this to you before, but I did a National Endowment for the Humanities grant at Ticonderoga.
Yes.
Where we talked about French and Indian War stuff. We went to the Naval Museum that's in Vermont, and we got to see some of the wrecks that are under Lake Champlain, and a lot of those are from a little later than the period discussed, but having the ability to field militia and do the kind of battles from like Queen Anne's War and stuff, I'm psyched for it. Just the historical aspect of it, I'm gonna drop a ton of money on it. Just tell you that right now.
Well, the Queen Anne's War stuff is the stuff that's coming out like in the next week or so, as far as the fire starters anyway.
Yep.
But I'm right there with you. So for me, again, so the part you studied on or was focused on there was the last French and Indian War, the one that everybody just calls the French and Indian War, which is still super cool, super interesting, but it's also been done a lot in wargaming. There's been covered plenty, and we will cover it. I think it's a super important part of what Blood and Plunder rather a super important part of where Blood and Plunder is going. But I really want to focus on the early ones because that in wargaming is pretty much completely ignored. You do get some War of Spanish Succession gaming, but it's all European focused for the vast majority. I think I've seen some stuff, some very minimal stuff using Donnybrook, maybe I think it was for for like King William's War, but that's the extent of it, and that's kind of just slapped onto the period. It's not really designed for that, I guess you could say, right?
I think that the mechanics of this game system work well with the time period because of the small scale guerrilla nature of the fighting, and it scales up pretty well. So even if you want to do a bigger battle, you can just use kind of the war rules, and you can have the regiments and stuff. But the mechanics all hold together. When you play these bigger games.
Yeah, definitely.
It looks great. It looks great. It plays great. I'm psyched. I'm psyched for it.
Cool, yeah. And then wargaming tends to be pretty Anglo-centric, right? And in the final French and Indian War, that's when the British really learned how to finally fight, in the American wilderness style, right? That's where you get like Robert's Rangers and all those guys. That's where they finally figured it out. But in the previous ones, they were pretty much getting, even though they had some wins and they were able to pull it out here and there, just because of they were pretty good soldiers overall. But the French really picked it up much faster. And they were like in the 1690s already. They've pretty much figured out the whole Ranger thing, before the English did. So it's a kind of cool dynamic where you've got them fighting that way and the English still kind of fighting a little more traditionally, right? Although you have exceptions, obviously, like Benjamin Church and stuff like that, who's starting to get it, but it's still not. He's a very small specific group, and it's mostly Native American stuff fighting with him. The praying Indians, as they call it. Mm-hmm.
One thing to point out to you, if you're ever up in the area in the summer, because I know that the snow is scary for you.
Yes, horrifying.
I think Ticonderoga has one of the largest collections of period weapons in North America.
I've heard about that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they have a curator who goes through them. They also have it scheduled so that each year is a different year in the history of the fort.
Oh, cool.
And so they change the kind of uniforms these people are making, and they make everything from scratch with period artisans there. So, if you go up during certain times of the year, you will see French soldiers. You will see people cosplaying as Indians, basically. You will see the Canadian militia guys there, it's really cool.
Yeah. I got a lot of my source images from some of their things. Yeah.
They even teach classes for people that are reenactors that
Mhm.
want to learn how to make their own shoes
That's
or
pretty
make their
cool.
own shirts and stuff, where they have a week-long class. They let you stay up there.
I could definitely do the shoes class because that's the most expensive part of an accurate outfit.
No,
Shoes
it's
is like-
insanely. I
Yes.
had no idea.
Yeah,
Insanely expensive.
it's like buying a war game army for pretty much any game except for
No,
you know,
one of the pairs of shoes I saw was like $900.
yeah, it's crazy. I know.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't do it. If I'm gonna
No
spend
way.
$900, I'm gonna buy myself some kind of black powder weapon or something. Maybe like a cannon for that price.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely. So
But yeah,
of all the stuff that's going on this year, if you could pick one that you're the most excited for, that you're most looking forward to, what would it be?
I should say the Blood and Plunder Kickstarter that's coming, but realistically, it's the launch of Oak and Iron because because I can finally breathe when it's here. Like for that boat to land safely, it's 3 boats actually. So for the 3 boats to land safely where they're going and the stuff to start getting shipped out, that's what I'm looking forward to the most. Just because
That's fair. That's
just
fair.
because
That's fair.
it's been such it's taken over my entire life. I'm not exaggerating. It's this whole it's been like 16 months of hell to get this thing going. I mean, we've just had so many stupid issues to try to surmount. And the really annoying thing is that most of them are just out of our control, and all I can do is just sit there and yell at people and try to get things going. And because for Blood and Plunder, a lot of it was under our control. We were making it ourselves. I could just stay late and spin cast stuff, which I did a lot of for no piece beyond the line, stuff like that, But this I can't do anything about, so it's incredibly frustrating. So that's really the main thing I'm looking forward to, just getting that thing here, getting it done, finally getting it in people's hands, getting the reaction, seeing what people think, But I am also very excited to timeline for Blood and Plunder and get all that stuff. That's very, very, very close second. Because I'm super excited for plastic. I love metal, but I also really like the flexibility and the accessibility of plastic. It's just going to open up a lot more doors for us overseas and stuff where shipping is a problem because of the weight of the metal. This will and really, Blood and Plunder has needed a 2-player starter set for a long time. And again, because of the nature of metal and resin, you can't really make it affordable. We have that one deal on our website, but that's difficult for people overseas to pick up and stuff like that. So it gets, it's a little difficult. So this has been a long time coming. I'm really excited to finally see it happen. I think, and the fact that I don't even know if I brought this up today, but the fact that it's such an iconic battle of Blackbeard's final battle versus Maynard, right? Which, they've got TV series about that. They've got tons of books, tons of things. Everybody knows it. It's such a cool thing. You could pick it up. And it's pretty similar to Oak and Iron, except for the fact you got to build models. But everything's in the box. It'll have the CMAT and the rule book and the cards and the dice and the ships and everything else you need. So you can just open the box, got everything you need, start playing Blood and Plunder from there.
Are you putting 2 sloops in the starter box?
Yes, that's the plan.
That is going
2
to be
sloops
awesome.
and 2 small crews, yeah. And what's cool is that we're pretty close to the actual accurate numbers for the battle because it was small. So it's going to have 13.
It was a very tiny fight by the time
they
closed.
Exactly, yeah. Technically, there was a 3rd sloop involved, but they didn't really do anything. So they just sat there stuck on sandbars the whole time. So we're not going to focus on that part. I can't put 3 ships in there. That's just too much of that.
So in the interest of finishing up on time,
sure.
I'm going to let Glenn and Tyler kind of run down give shout outs to events and things that are happening. If you want to run down for listeners, like where things are happening, where you're going to be, what kind of events we have going on for players.
Sure. I've got one too, by the way. I should have put that in the notes. Now that I think about it, I should add that to the notes, but that's okay. I'll just say that's good.
Glenn, fire away.
Okay. I do have a demo coming up this weekend at GamerCore, although it'll probably have passed by the time this is released. Hoping to see everybody there. Unfortunately, Mike, this is one of those things that might get snowed out because they're talking about us getting maybe 6 inches of snow.
Nope.
And I can't leave the farm at that point. So, additionally, Tyler and I are going to be going to Cold Wars, although I will let him tell about the games there. We are also looking at going to a place in Shepherdstown, West Virginia, called 1D4Con in April. Hadn't heard of this game this convention previously. It seems to be an RPG convention, so maybe we'll be able to swing that in a few years if Firelock ever decides to do a RPG type set of rules.
I should. But actually, real quick, I'm sorry, I should have brought that up.
They are.
We do have one coming up. It's called Raise the Black, a historical pirate-focused RPG. But anyway, that's all.
I volunteered to play
plug it.
test it because I have a group of kids. I have like 20 kids playing D&D on Thursday afternoons.
That's awesome.
And so I volunteered to take the rule set and have them try it out for like a month or two. So
Nice.
I'm gonna play test that. I'm on the quartermaster page.
It'll be
Very
extra
cool.
easy to get into with
Very cool.
all of us already owning a ton of pirate minis.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, we're gonna be at 1D4 Con. We've got some pretty interesting theme game ideas that we're tossing back and forth, and we might be doing some experiment with in the Maryland area. So keep an eye out on the various pages on Facebook because we'll be putting out events there. Tyler, you want to take it away?
Yeah, so the other thing that we have coming up is Glenn and I are going to Games and Stuff, which I believe is his home store, and I'm going to put on the Perico game there that I ran at Fall In. I'm going to run that again on February 1st. That is a pretty insane battle. It's a bunch of pirates in canoes against a bunch of Spanish guys in ships. So it gets a bit crazy about 3 turns in. And then we are also, as he alluded to, we're also going to be at Cold Wars. We're covering the tournament side of things. So on Friday at Cold Wars here in Lancaster, PA, we're going to be doing Hunt for the Sea Serpent, which is a 200-point sea battle. And then on Saturday, we're going to do Unleash the Dogs of War, which is the 100-point land battle. Also, there will be another quartermaster, Sean Martin, and he is doing a scenario game, so Attack on the Santa Maria, which I'm really hoping that if I can get away from a table long enough, or if I'm not running demos somewhere, I want to see how he runs his scenario game and kind of trade notes on that.
Cool.
What are the dates for Cold Wars this year?
Cold Wars is March 14th, 15th. I'm sorry, the 12th through the 15th.
Okay.
So
So I think it picks up with the open gaming. I think the 12th is a Thursday.
yeah,
And it's just kind of show up and play pickup games, and then
Mostly
the real
just-
events kick off.
yeah, mostly
Friday.
just check in, badge reg, and like a couple of games in a lobby.
And who's going to Adepticon?
Oh, me, obviously.
I
can't
will be
Adepticon.
present at Adepticon.
That's one of
sorry.
my gamer goals is to make it to one of the big conventions. I've hit all the HMGS conventions multiple times now. I've never made it out to Adepticon or any of the other
Gen Con
big-
or anything? Yeah. I haven't done any of them either.
I will tell you that I think of all the shows I've been to so far, if I was going to go to any show just to go for fun, it would be Adepticon. That is a great, great show. Really well done.
Where is Adepticon?
It's just outside of Chicago. What's the name of the town? It's called Schaumburg.
Okay. Yeah, my original
Help
plan
you
was
on
to
that.
help out these guys at Cold Wars, but my wife got a brand new job, which is good news. But that also means that she's transitioning into a new job, and
Right.
don't know that I can do it. So if I'll sneak away, I'll help you out, but I don't want to promise and not be able to. So
Of course.
I'll support you from over here in Danbury, Connecticut. I'm going to be running demos at Gamers Gambit. I'm trying to do it like once a month. I'm going to set up a schedule with the store guy, see if I can grab a couple new players, see how it goes.
Good luck.
All right, I think that's everything. We ran it-
real quick,
Go ahead.
one last thing, Mike. I know we kind of talked
Yep.
about all the stuff that's going on. Is there
Sure.
anything coming out from Firelock in like the next couple weeks or month that you'd want to put a special spotlight on, aside from Oak and Iron hopefully hitting the American shores?
Yeah, so we were going to do the Corde de Bois as part of the Firestarter, but we were just going to put those to straight regular release in good faith that the other ones will do well anyway. So that was, we typically try to give a nice lead on that, but those are just going to come out basically. We've also got we've got the Palisade Fort that we released the model for, and the model was done. I really have not had the time to stat it up properly and play test it and create stats for it. So that is coming, hopefully within the next month or two, the latest. And on top of that, we've got I should have brought this up before really, but we've got some expansion parts for that. So there's going to be a blockhouse, and there's going to be a bastion that replaces the current corner piece. So you could do a 1 to 4 bastion piece or fort with a blockhouse. Similar, it's modeled after the San Marcos de Apalache in Tallahassee right now, or Appalachia at the time, but Tallahassee now. So it's a Spanish blockhouse with a Spanish palisade. Since nobody really does anything of that style, everybody does the like North American one. So that's coming out. There's a we obviously have the 6 rate that just came out, which is the big deal right now. And that is just such a gorgeous ship. Our sculptor almost sent us to a bad place with all the work and redos and things, but it was worth it in the end. Even he admitted it. So it's a great model. Definitely check it out.
So when are the fire starters starting?
It's just, we don't have an exact schedule. We're already behind schedule. We were hoping to have them out in December. As soon as we're done doing some website updates we need to do, that's the very next thing on the agenda. So those will be out when that's done. They're
Gotcha.
pretty much ready to go. So what we're going to do this time, it's a little different than we did last time, is we did commission 1 model of each type to give you an idea of the direction and how they're going to look, so you can see kind of exactly what you're getting. And then we'll do so we've kind of made that initial investment so that people can be. There were some things. Some people didn't like the pikemen the way they came out because it was a different sculptor than our usual one. So it wasn't, obviously with a different sculptor, it's never going to match exactly. But I felt they were close and they were good and they're really nice models. So with this one, you'll get to see them right up front. You'll know exactly what they look like. At least one model from the group, and they'll all be consistent because it'll be the same sculptor. And so you'll get that preview and you'll get to know exactly what it is you want, or exactly what it is you're getting, more or less. And then as we go, we'll do updates and we'll get some printed and painted and stuff as we start getting so we'll do kind of mini stretch goals, nothing fancy, just show more of what's coming. But that is I think that is it for the most part, aside from Blood and Valor being right around the corner, which I think we talked about already.
All right, well, Mike, thank you so much for being here.
One quick thing, actually.
Well, sorry,
for events, I had an event to plug.
Oh, right. Go.
Yeah. First, I think it's, I don't have the dates, but RapierCon, it's the first week of February, first or second weekend of February. I want to say it's the 7th, something like that. RapierCon in Jacksonville, Florida. So if anybody's around Jacksonville, Florida, we will be there in force. We're running a big Oak and Iron Sea battle. It's going to be the first time we run a big fleet battle publicly. We should have some Blood and Valor books to sell there. We're hoping to have the models as well. And we've got our Scurvy dice, which I forgot to mention. That's our little dice rolling game, which is super fun. We'll have that there. And running big Blood and Valor games, Blood and Plunder. It's a really cool little con. We go every year. It's pretty low key. Typically gets around 200 people, I think. But it's super fun. There's tons of games to play. So check it out if you're in the area.
And that is February 7th to 9th. I just double checked for you.
Sweet.
Perfect.
All right, Mike, thank you so much for coming on. I'm sorry to have made you wait. I owe you a beer at the next convention I actually bump into you.
No problem.
And hopefully we'll get updates from you guys periodically about what's going on at Firelock.
Yeah, anytime you want. Feel free to hit me up.
All right, so from all the guys here at No Dice, No Glory, thanks for listening. And we'll get back to you next month. And hopefully we'll have this out next week because we're recording this on the 14th. And we can get it out so people can know what's coming up. So have a good night, guys.
Yep, thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much for joining the show tonight. Remember to follow us on Twitter at No Dice, No Glory. And keep the conversation going on NoDiceNoGlory.com, now featuring our own message boards. Have a great night, everybody.